Why were you so fascinated by animals, do you think?
Because I find in animals the same thing that I find so wonderful in children, that purity, that honesty, where they don't judge you, they don't want anything from you, just to be your friend.
Neverland seems like a fairy tale kind of a place, but it was no fairy tale for the animals living there.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sid, and in today's video I am going to be talking about the late Michael Jackson's pets from the Neverland Ranch. At first he kept a bunch of animals at his home, but he soon ran out of room.
There were so many animals at Havenhurst, the space wasn't there, so he needed more space.
So when he got the ranch, he filled it up with as many animals as possible.
Everything that I love is behind those gates. We have elephants and giraffes and crocodiles and every kind of tigers and lions.
He owned the ranch for almost 2 decades, but after being taken to court for alleged child molestation in 2005, he moved to the Middle East for almost a year, leaving all of his animals behind. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of the animals on the ranch and where they are now. But first, I want to say a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Exter. If you travel and always feel like you're playing Suitcase Tetris, their Travel Pack Vacuum Kit lets you triple your packing space in any travel bag. Exter's modular travel compression bags are carry-on sized and made from strong anti-rip nylon with waterproof, anti-leak zippers, so your clothes stay dry, hygienic, and odor-proof. You just pack your clothes normally into these bags and then use the portable USB-C rechargeable air pump, or even a regular vacuum cleaner, to compress everything down. One full charge gives you around 20 users, and watching it shrink down is honestly wild. Each bag can compress 15 plus items of clothing, and even doubles as a laundry bag at the end of your trip. But that isn't all Exter has to offer. They are known for their super slim, quick access wallets with RFID protection, and by adding one of their Finder cards, you can track your wallet's location from your phone. On top of that, the wallets are made from environmentally friendly materials like space-grade aluminum and vegan Italian leather. So if you want to upgrade your wallet or your travel setup, get up to 65% off with my code SID at partner.exter.com/SidDwyer. Thank you so much to Exter for sponsoring this video. It really helps me and the channel out. So anyway, back to talking about Michael Jackson's animals. So before Michael left to the Middle East, there were many animals that already came and went from his ranch. Some of those were his original tigers, Thriller and Sabu. Before he got tigers of his own, he got to know some through the Thriller album photo shoot. But the one cub featured on the cover wasn't the only one he took a photo with. There were multiple others that would be switched out as needed.
And we went out and we rented, I think 3 little baby tigers. And we, alternated them, played around with them.
And when he started buying tigers, he did the same thing. Once they reached a certain age, he would rehome them, get new ones, and then also call them Thriller and Sabu. The first original set of Thriller and Sabu were sent to live at Tiger Creek Animal Sanctuary in Texas in the early 2000s.
We've got 2 tigers from Michael Jackson. He used to rotate through his cubs. He would get them as little babies and raise them up to a certain age, and then he would get rid of them, and then he would get 2 more. So we're not the only facility in the country with some of his cats, but we do have 2 of his.
At Tiger Creek, Thriller was renamed to Sierra, and Sabu was renamed to Akalon. In 2009, Director of Operations Terry Werner said that Sabu, aka Akalon, had a mass on his belly, and then shortly after they said they only had one of Michael's tigers then.
We have animals from all over the country. We even have Michael Jackson's tiger. It was one of his original tigers.
Tiger Creek was later sued by the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and in the lawsuit it was revealed that Thriller, aka Sierra, was euthanized in 2018 by being stabbed in the chest repeatedly, where she still didn't die for 5 minutes. The 2 tigers he got after those were the last 2 he got. When he moved, the tigers were moved to Tippi Hedren's Shambhala Preserve in Acton, California. On their website you could make donations to adopt the tigers, and they made it clear that the donations were important important because when they took them on, Michael didn't provide any financial support and never did. But even though Michael didn't provide any funding, they still lived happy lives. But sadly, Thriller did die in June 2012 of lung cancer at age 13. There's been no official announcement for what happened to Sabu, but since he was 7 years old when Tippi Hedren took him on in 2006, he has more than likely already passed away. The way Tippi was put in a position to take on Michael's tigers was because she was engaged with the veterinarian for Michael's animals at the time, Martin Dennis, and when Michael left, he left it up to Martin to rehome all of the animals. But in 2006, Martin had to sue Michael for over $90,000 for unpaid vet bills. But despite never receiving a donation for the care of the tigers and the unpaid vet bills, Tippi did not hold that against Michael and believed that he took good care of his animals.
You know, it was a very, very sad time for him. And so he, I'm sure, feels very good that his animals are being well taken care of. There was no law against him having them. And as far as I know, Michael treated them absolutely beautifully. They had the best of foods, they had the best, best care. I know that when Michael left, he made sure that the crew and staff were there to take care of the animals. It was unfortunate because there was an animal organization who tried to say that the animals were not treated well and all that, and that is absolutely wrong. That's absolutely wrong.
But many years later, Tippi wrote in her 2016 memoir how she was disappointed in Michael.
We gladly took in 2 of Michael Jackson's tigers from Neverland Ranch, Thriller and Sabu. I was really disappointed that he didn't call, not once, to check on them, nor did he ever send a dime for their food and upkeep.
Some of the other animals Martin helped rehome were Michael's elephants, a male named Ali and a female named Baba. He got these elephants because their parents were killed as a part of a cull in the South African Kruger National Park, and the infants were put up for sale in the pet trade. Michael was one of those buyers. But 4 years into his purchase, he was having second thoughts about the male Ali. As a way to control the elephants as infants, they would be chained in their holding area, but as they grew, the elephant trainers on the Neverland Ranch used bull hooks to keep them in line, which are a long stick with a hook on the end of them. But as Ali, the male, continued to grow and grow, there was concern that they would not be able to control him with just a bull hook, so Michael donated him to the Jacksonville Zoo. In 1997, Michael said he hopes to visit Ali at the zoo one day, but he never did. When Ali was taken to the zoo, Baba thankfully wasn't left all alone. She did still have a companion. Her companion was the first elephant Michael ever got in 1991. He received an elephant from Elizabeth Taylor as a gift. He named this elephant Gypsy. Details for what happened to Gypsy are very scarce, but according to the elephant database, she was euthanized in either 2001 or 2002 due to arthritis. Joint problems are very common in captive elephants because they need a lot of space to roam, and usually captive settings can't provide them with what they need. And when Gypsy died, Baba was all alone. So another elephant named Susie was brought in from the Serengeti Ranch Company, which trains animals for movies, shows, commercials, and public appearances.
All right, come in line, dude.
All right, Susie, come in line. Susie, come in line.
With Susie came her trainer, Hayden Rosenau. He helped manage both Baba and Susie at Michael's zoo. When Michael left Neverland, Hayden took Baba and Susie back home with him to his 700-acre ranch. Susie would go on to appear in Katy Perry's Raw music video and a range of other things. But soon, the demand for elephants in entertainment dried up so he wanted to move them elsewhere. He offered them to a man named Jeff Lowe, who was featured in the Tiger King docuseries on Netflix, but he ultimately sold them to the Michael Elephant Ranch in 2024. There, people pay to have interactions with them, and animal rights groups have been trying to take them down for over a decade for forcing elephants into unnatural situations and improper care. One of Michael's animals who fortunately had a much happier ending was his chimpanzee Bubbles. He was taught how to moonwalk. He went overseas on tour with Michael in 1987, and he spent a lot of time living with Michael. He supposedly got Bubbles from a cancer research facility. The way that was made possible was with the help of Hollywood animal trainer Bob Dunn. He worked out the deal, and after that, Bob stayed employed by Michael. He had two jobs. He was Bubbles' trainer, as well as his part-time home. Whenever Michael went out of town, Bubbles stayed with Bob.
Now, we read all the time that he has his own clothes, his own bedroom. He spends a lot of time with Michael. Does he live there all the time?
No, half the time he lives with me when Michael's out of town.
Is he answering me? Nobody divides his time?
Yeah, usually he's in training a lot, so he lives with me when he's in training.
But by 2003, Bubbles had become too unmanageable for Michael, and so he went to live in a cage permanently on Bob's property.
Where is Bubbles now?
Bubbles is, he's with a caretaker with like 40 to 50 other chimps, because chimps, they get to an age like teenage kids do, where they want to challenge their parents. Like if your father tell you to do something, you go, why? Why do I have to do it, Dad? And chimps are very much like that too. They'll challenge you, and it can become dangerous in a way, you know. And if they get angry with you and decide to take you on, it's no match. I mean, they're very, very strong. If they can take your finger off, they're very powerful.
And even though Bob's place was far from the best place for Bubbles as well, some people were glad to see him leave Michael's place for good. One of those people was the late chimp researcher Jane Goodall. Michael invited her to the Neverland Ranch, and she went, and she was shocked by the things she heard and saw of Michael's treatment of Bubbles. After that, she seemed to take every opportunity to mention how Michael beat Bubbles.
And he looked at me and he said, you wouldn't approve of a chimp being hit over the head, would you? I said, no, Michael, you know I wouldn't. Bubbles was hit when he did something wrong. Michael said, oh, once he was hit across the room. I said, well, Michael, did you think that was all right? And he said, no, not really.
I know when when I was growing up, Michael Jackson had one, and I always wanted to have one.
I picked him off. I went to see him and we talked about Bubbles.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
What was the best thing about Bubbles?
Bubbles is still alive and he's very beautiful. But when he was with Michael Jackson, he was being beaten.
Did Michael ever teach him how to dance?
Michael's friend and music producer Frank Cassio wrote in his memoir that Michael sprayed Bubbles in the face with water so that he would scream, and he could use that scream in a song.
While recording a song called Monkey Business, Michael had squirted his chimp Bubbles with water and taped him screaming in response. You hear this at the beginning of the song. That song was only available on a special edition of the Dangerous album.
And close friend of Michael's, Ron Newt, said that Bubbles bit him, and in retaliation, Michael beat Bubbles.
He said, Bubble, did you bite him? He said, Michael said, bam, slapped him to his knees, and Bubble said, I said, what is he doing? Michael said, praying for his life, because he know he done did the wrong thing.
So Michael Jackson beat up Bubbles?
Hit him with an 8-piece.
With an 8-piece?
With an 8-piece. Mike was fast.
Really?
Oh, my God.
But monkeys are really strong, though.
Yeah, but he couldn't mess with Mike. Mike hit him so fast, man, he was down on his knees, praying
so
for his
Michael
life.
just beat the crap out of Bubbles.
He hit him with an 8-piece.
Hit him with an 8-piece.
Like Mayweather hit Pacquiao.
Sheryl Crow has also talked about her experience being around Michael and Bubbles and how he would discipline Bubbles.
I got so offended by that he was poking this poor little chimpanzee in the chest with a pen. You must have been appalled.
This poor little chimpanzee that could have picked him up and thrown him out the window, you know.
Right. And ripped his face off.
And ripped his face off, you know.
Right.
I'm just trying to I'm just trying to like stay in my body because Michael's laughing at Amos and Andy and throwing popcorn and poking Bubbles in the chest.
So it's kind of unfortunate that Michael had already been buying more baby chimps. He got a chimp named Max, a chimp named Action, who everyone called AJ, and a chimp named Alex.
There's Alex the chimp. She's got earrings on. See, my father loves animals. I think that's where I got my love for animals from.
Details about these chimps are very few and far between. Alex was seen in one of Michael's home videos. AJ was mentioned being housed in an ape sanctuary on Neverland by writer Paul Theroux, and described him as big, bristly, and shovel-mouthed. He also spat in Paul's face. One of his housekeepers, Adrian McManus, who testified in Michael's 2005 molestation trial, said that Max would tear his diapers off before crawling into Michael's bed. In 2022, she also told The Sun that Max bit her and that the chimps were allowed to run riot. At one point, the celebrity Eddie Murphy had dinner with Michael, and the chimps were allowed to roam the place while Bubble was confined to a cage.
Bubbles had gotten too old. Bubble was in the cage, like tripping, like, ah! And Michael's like, don't go near the cage. And we had dinner, though. They brought the trainer, brought the chimps in, and they were running around while we were eating dinner and running under the table. It was surreal.
Bubbles wasn't the only chimp. There are other chimps that didn't become famous as Bubbles. Yeah.
I searched high and low for what happened to Max, AJ, and Alex, but couldn't find a thing. And for many years, it was unknown for what happened to Bubbles as well. But in 2005, Bob retired from keeping and training chimps. So in 2005, he sent all of his chimps, including Bubbles, to the sanctuary, the Center for Great Apes. When news of that broke, hundreds of news stations wanted to go visit him, but the founder, Patty Reagan, didn't allow it. She did, however, release a press statement detailing how Bubbles ended up in her care and how he has been. She also mentioned that Michael hasn't provided any funding for Bubbles' care. After Michael died in 2009, Animal Planet put together a documentary on Bubbles, and Patty allowed the film crew to visit. As a part of that documentary, Michael's sister, LaToya, visited Bubbles, which was the first time in 20 years she had seen him.
I haven't seen you in ages, Bubbles. Do you remember me? Bubbles? Do you remember me, Bubbles? You're looking like you do. Do you, Bubbles? Oh, I want to kiss you, I want to hug you, and I know I can't because you're so big.
Bubbles is currently still at the Center for Great Apes and is 42 years old. Patty has also released another statement about Bubbles, letting everyone know that while Michael didn't leave anything to Bubbles or any animal charity in his will, Michael's family has decided to pay for the cost of his entire care every year. They also made an additional donation which helped the sanctuary expand. So while some of Michael's animals were able to be rehomed with people who had already been in their lives, that wasn't the case for all of them. A bunch of them went to auction. Two of those were a female and male alligator. They ended up in the hands of Joe Exotic at the GW Zoo in Oklahoma, which was featured in the Netflix Tiger King documentary. At the zoo, the alligators began to breed, and they ended up with a bunch of baby alligators from them. But a couple of years into it, the male died, and soon after, all of the offspring died as well. The building the alligators were being housed in burnt down, where 7 alligators and 1 crocodile burned alive.
Set fire to not only my recording studio, but the studio that houses our alligators, which caused them all to burn up and perish, boiling alive in a towering inferno of nothing but flames and fire.
But there was one survivor from the fire.
One of the remaining alligators in Michael Jackson's was able to crawl out and escape after receiving, minor burns and smoke inhalation. She had blood coming out her nose, but it was treated by the zoo vet, and we were able to actually save her.
She was able to escape when the fire burnt off the door of her enclosure and made a run for it. An indoor alligator habitat was rebuilt, and as of 2017, she was still alive. But much like Michael, Joe Exotic went through a legal battle and lost his zoo as a result. All of his animals were seized by federal authorities and transferred to reputable sanctuaries. Unfortunately, there's no publicly available information for where the female alligator was sent to. But the female and male alligator weren't actually Joe's to begin with. There was somebody else who owned them between Michael and Joe. Originally, the alligators were purchased by somebody else, and Joe was simply holding on to them.
We got 2 alligators from the Neverland Ranch. For all of y'all that, some of you younger viewers don't know it, that's Michael Jackson's ranch. Back when he got in all that pedophile trouble and stuff like that, they sold all of his animals off. Somebody actually purchased them and were going to build a zoo, and then they didn't get their permits for the zoo, so they asked us to hold them, and we took them in, and we've had them ever since.
When the giraffes lived at the Neverland Ranch, there were some problems with them that made the news, which gave the public some insight into how they lived. But for other animals at the ranch, we never got much of a glimpse into their lives. As you may have noticed, this video focuses more on what happened to Michael's animals after they left the ranch, because we really don't know a whole lot of what happened at the ranch with the animals. Michael prohibited people from using their personal cameras there, so much of what went on is a question mark. Photos of some of the animals' full enclosures are non-existent. There's some animals on the ranch where only 1 or 2 photos exist of them, and there's even some with none at all. One of those animals was a lion named Kimber. In a transcript of a conversation between sound engineer Brad Sundberg and a Michael Jackson fan named Willa, he talked about his experience with Kimber. He said Kimber was kind of kept up the hill a little bit because he was so mad at life, and that he was just not a friendly animal. In the book The Secret Diary of Jordan Chandler, it talks about many experiences with Michael, and one of those was with Kimber. According to an anecdote in the book, Michael was showing Kimber to a group of kids who he brought to the ranch, and Kimber roared at them and scared them. In retaliation, Michael told them to gather stones in an animal food bucket and start throwing them at Kimber. They did that so much that Kimber started to bleed. A former staff member of Michael's, Robert Wagner, released a memoir in 2003 talking about his experiences on the ranch. He said the security department was getting calls that someone was throwing rocks at the lion and he was roaring. They soon got a report back that it was Michael throwing medium-sized rocks because he liked to hear the lion roar. A former security guard, Charlie Michaels, who worked at the Neverland Ranch from 1990 to 1992, was involved in another complaint filed against Michael's estate in 2016, and in the deposition she briefly talked about Kimber. As seen in the transcript of the deposition, she was talking about some things that Michael did that she did not think were appropriate. One of those things was tormenting the lion to try and get him to roar. She said he would yell at it and beat on the cage with a stick. It's unknown what happened to Kimber, but Brad Sundberg said that he was one of the first animals at the ranch, so it's possible that he lived out his entire lifespan on Neverland. Other animals that Michael seemed to torment were his alligators. According to Dieter Weisner's memoir, who was Michael's manager in 2003, Michael threw pebbles at the alligators until they snapped at him and showed their teeth, which he thought was hilarious. The late Aaron Carter also had a story about the way Michael interacted with them.
He hopped into the alligator pit and started swinging on the crocodile or alligator's tail and just being crazy. And he's just laughing and giggling and just like look what I can do, Aaron.
So if Michael enjoyed getting a rise out of his animals, it's not surprising they seemed to be on edge and aggressive. Writer Paul Thoreau called Michael's animals ill-tempered. He said the giraffe was skittish, Gypsy the elephant was moody, the animal keeper told Paul not to go near Ali see the male elephant, a cobra and a rattlesnake had smashed their fangs against the glass of their cage, trying to bite him. A llama spat on him, and an orangutan tried to twist his arm. Michael's former maid, Adrienne McManus, shed some light on what the conditions were like for the zoo animals in general. She told The Sun, "The zoo should not have been there because no one ever really properly looked after the animals and all of the staff were in danger. I am shocked no one got seriously injured or attacked. Michael should never have been allowed to keep those animals. It breaks my heart to think about all the cruelty. Animals died and disappeared all the time at Neverland, but unusually it was considered normal. No one seemed to investigate or ask questions." Robert Wagner wrote in his book that the ranch illegally brought in a zebra cross donkey, so a zonkey, and they were very wild and unwilling to be there. He said they continually bashed their head against a fence post and died the following day. Charlie Michaels was questioned in her deposition about her saying something that exotic animals would be found dead and then they would write them off and change the story. And she said that because of a time they did that with a zebra. Jane Goodall also agrees that the animals weren't kept in the best conditions.
Conditions were terrible. There were 2 dressed up chimps. There was a poor little bear in a sort of circular cage crying it shouldn't have left its mother. And the whole situation was horrendous.
But we've never seen how bad those conditions were. Film crews and news stations would occasionally be allowed in. They'd film bits and pieces of the zoo and the animals, but there was nothing specifically dedicated to it. So as a result, we don't really know what the zoo was like. A couple of photos leaked after Michael left of what the giraffe and elephant holding areas looked like, but it was nothing too extensive. A man named Larry Nimmer was assigned to documenting what the property was like for Michael's 2005 molestation trial, and this is how he described the zoo.
But so I was given free rein to roam around the property and film it. And the zoo, it certainly wasn't like a zoo in a city, which a big, huge place. It was a kind of a confined area. It was very well kept up and buildings and outdoor areas. And I saw the llamas and the giraffes and the large cats and elephant, but it was called a zoo and maybe even had a sign, Neverland Zoo, but it wasn't a huge zoo.
But the most detail we got of the zoo was when the Neverland Ranch was listed for sale. There was professional footage released by the real estate agents to interested buyers, which showed a variety of cages and enclosures. The company that listed it for sale were allowed to tour the property for an entire day, and one of the real estate agents filmed the process of going on that excursion. In his video, we got to see the animal cages while they were on the train. Oh, there was a train station on the property, if you didn't know. In both sets of footage, a llama could be seen.
And there was one animal left on the property, that llama right there. I can't remember what his name was. It was Randy or something, but there was one llama left on the property that apparently had been there the entire time since Michael was there.
So that poor llama has just been living there all alone all this time. But what the zoo looked like when the llama wasn't lonely and had lots of animals around him will always be mostly a mystery. When Neverland was in operation, the animals we saw the most of were the giraffes. And that is because they were in the news for a couple of things. According to animal care standards, his giraffe cage was too small initially, and the barn the giraffe were being housed in caught fire. Fortunately, the city required Michael to have 2 firefighters on Neverland, so the fire was able to be put out pretty quickly without there being any harm to the animals. But a giraffe was harmed in a separate occasion. Michael's first and most notable giraffe was a male named Jabbar. Michael had a line of soft toys made of his pets, and one of those was Jabbar. But his death was far from soft. Ross Kemp in the documentary searching for Michael Jackson's zoo got in contact with someone who knew what happened to him. David Nordahl was an artist who often painted murals for Michael and revealed Jabbar's fate.
Well, I know what happened to Jabbar. Jabbar was killed in an accident. The doors that went into the giraffe barn came loose, and that door came around and broke his neck.
By the time Michael left Neverland, there was 4 giraffes: Rambo, JJ, Annie Sue, and Princess. They were purchased by Tom and Freddie Hancock. They also purchased a bunch of Michael's parrots and reptiles, including the alligators. They wanted to create what they called Banjoko Wildlife Preserve. They had issues with the town they were trying to get this started in.
My goals for this preserve is to build something that the animals feel like they are free and to live out their lives in happiness and with dignity.
A court battle opened this past week over the future of 4 giraffes once owned by entertainer Michael Jackson.
Officials are trying to get them evicted from their new home near the shores of Lake Powell.
They've been embroiled in an eviction battle. The city of Page, Arizona terminated their lease on city property.
We had a lease that required us to get the bond.
Then they want us off the property because we can't get a bond. Well, we can't get a bond because the city has to fill the bond form out.
Week, city officials were in court hoping to persuade a judge to evict the giraffes and a camel.
I don't know what I'd do. They've been here, they're acclimated to here. It would be traumatic on me and on...
They had no prior experience caring for exotic animals, and as a result, JJ and Rambo died just weeks apart. And after a couple of years, the couple decided to call it quits. So Joe Exotic got to keep the alligators that belonged to the Hancocks, and Princess and Annie Sue were taken to a sanctuary.
Annie Sue was really old when we got her, and she lived for about, I think she was here for 5 or 6 years. Princess was here for a lot longer than Annie Sue, but unfortunately she passed away.
Michael also had many other animals. Many of their whereabouts is completely unknown, but for others we do know a little bit of info. The horses on the ranch were donated to a children's riding program. His orangutans, Brandy and Patrick, were sold to a private owner in Connecticut. His 13 flamingos were sent to the Cape May County Zoo in New Jersey, and that is pretty much it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's take a moment of silence for all of the animals who suffered or died on the Neverland Ranch. And I will see you in my next video.